The day my husband left me did not begin with shouting or slammed doors. It began quietly, the way betrayals often do, soft, ordinary, almost gentle. I was standing in the kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, one hand resting on my swollen belly as the kettle screamed itself to sleep. Twin kicks rolled beneath my palm, uneven and persistent, as if they already sensed something was wrong. Ethan sat at the dining table, his phone face down, untouched coffee cooling in front of him. He hadn't looked at me all morning. That alone should have warned me. For weeks, he had been distant, working late, distracted, emotionally unavailable, but I told myself it was stress. Twins changed everything. New responsibilities, new fears. That's what I believed. "Can we talk?" he said finally, his voice controlled, rehearsed. I smiled without thinking. "About baby names? I still like." "No." He stood up abruptly, dragging the chair back with a sharp scrape that made me flinch. "This is serious." My stomach tightened, and not because of the pregnancy. I lowered myself into the chair across from him, breathing carefully. "You're scaring me." He rubbed his hands together, avoiding my eyes. "I've been honest with myself lately. About us." Those words, honest with myself, would later echo in my nightmares. "I don't feel the same anymore," he continued. "Things have changed." "Changed how?" I asked, already knowing, already afraid. He exhaled, as if he were the one burdened. "I'm not attracted to you anymore." The sentence landed with brutal precision. I stared at him, waiting for a laugh, for a correction, for anything. My body, heavy with his children, suddenly felt foreign, ugly, exposed.
"I'm pregnant," he whispered.
"I know," he said quickly.
"This isn't about that."
"Well, not entirely. Not entirely. And there's someone else," he added. The room spun. "Who?" He hesitated for half a second too long. "Lena." The name hit harder than the confession itself. Lena, his female friend. The one he swore was harmless. The one who texted him late at night. The one who always seemed to understand him better than I did. The one he told me not to worry about. "You told me she was just a friend," I said. "She was," he replied. "But she sees me. She makes me feel alive again."
Alive.
"And what about me?" My voice cracked. "What about us? What about your children?" He finally looked at my belly, then away. "I'll support them financially. But staying in this marriage would be dishonest."
Dishonest.
As if leaving his pregnant wife for another woman were some noble act of truth. "So you're leaving?" I said, my hands trembling. "Yes."
No apology. No remorse.
Just a decision, clean and final. He packed a bag within an hour. I watched from the hallway, one hand braced against the wall, the other clutching my stomach as the twins shifted restlessly inside me. When he reached the door, he paused. "I hope one day you'll understand," he said. The door closed behind him with a soft click. I slid down onto the floor, my body shaking, the silence crushing. I was 7 months pregnant with twins, abandoned for a woman who waited patiently on the sidelines while my life fell apart. And that was only the beginning. The silence after Ethan left was louder than any argument we'd ever had. It filled the apartment, seeped into the walls, pressed against my ears until I felt like I couldn't breathe. I stayed on the floor for a long time, my back against the hallway wall, knees bent awkwardly around my belly. The twins moved inside me, unsettled, as if they were searching for the sound of his voice and couldn't find it. I don't remember standing up, only that at some point I was in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed we had shared for 6 years. His pillow still smelled like him, faint cologne, laundry detergent, something familiar and safe. I pressed my face into it and cried until my chest hurt. Not quiet tears. Ugly, gasping sobs that shook my entire body. I reached for my phone without thinking. A message. A call. Anything. But there was nothing from Ethan. "No, are you okay?"
No, I'm sorry.
Just silence. Instead, there was a message from Lena. "I heard you, and Ethan talked. I'm so sorry you're hurting." My hands went cold. I stared at the screen, rereading the words over and over. I heard. Of course she had. He must have gone straight to her. Maybe he was with her already. The thought made bile rise in my throat. I didn't reply. I couldn't. If I did, I knew I would say something I could never take back. The hours crawled by. Evening light faded into night, and still I sat there, frozen in place. At some point, hunger hit me hard and sudden. I remembered I was supposed to eat every few hours. 2 babies depended on me. I forced myself into the kitchen, heated soup I barely tasted, and swallowed it through tears. That night, sleeping alone felt impossible. Every sound made me jump. The refrigerator humming, a car passing outside. The emptiness beside me in bed was unbearable. I curled around my belly, whispering apologies to my unborn children. "I'll protect you," I murmured. "I promise." But the truth was, I had never felt so unprotected in my life. The next morning, my mother called. Ethan must have told his parents, who told mine. The news spread faster than I could process it. "Come home," she said gently. "You shouldn't be alone." "I am home," I replied, though the words felt hollow now. After I hung up, I checked my bank account. Rent, utilities, hospital bills, numbers I had once reviewed calmly, now terrified me. Ethan had always handled most of the finances. I trusted him. Another mistake. By noon, he texted, "I've transferred money for this month. We can discuss arrangements later." That was it. A business transaction. No mention of how I was holding up. No acknowledgement of the twins. I typed and erased dozens of replies before sending nothing. In the afternoon, I went to my prenatal appointment alone. The waiting room was full of couples holding hands, laughing nervously, sharing ultrasound photos. I sat by myself, clutching my paperwork, feeling invisible. When the doctor placed the monitor on my belly, 2 strong heartbeats filled the room. "There they are," she smiled. "They're doing great." Tears streamed down my temples, soaking into the paper beneath my head. My babies were strong.
Alive.
Unaware that their father had already walked away. As I left the clinic, one truth settled heavily in my chest. Ethan didn't just leave me. He left us. And somehow, I had to learn how to survive that. The first rumor reached me before I was ready to hear it. It came from a neighbor, someone I barely spoke to beyond polite hallway smiles. I was struggling with grocery bags, my back aching, when she offered to help. Halfway to my door, she hesitated. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," she said carefully, "but I saw your husband yesterday." My heart skipped. "Where?" "At the cafe on Maple Street. He was with a woman." She looked very close to him. I already knew the answer, yet I asked anyway. "Was it Lena?" The pause was enough. "Yes." I thanked her, unlocked my door, and closed it behind me with shaking hands. The bag slipped from my fingers, groceries spilling across the floor. Oranges rolled away like small suns, bright and careless. I didn't pick them up.
So it was public now.
Not just a secret conversation or a quiet confession in my kitchen. He was out there, living openly with her, while I was still learning how to breathe without him. That evening, I finally did what I had been avoiding. I scrolled through social media. There they were. Ethan and Lena, tagged in a photo posted by one of his friends. They were sitting close together, her hand resting on his arm, both smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. The caption read, "New beginnings." New beginnings. I felt something inside me harden, not anger yet, but clarity. This hadn't started after he left. It hadn't even started during my pregnancy. It had started long before. I began replaying memories I had dismissed at the time. Late night, work, calls that weren't work. Weekends when he was helping Lena through a tough time. The way he compared me to her without realizing it, how she was so easygoing, how she never overreacted. I had been pregnant, exhausted, emotional. He made me feel like I was the problem. The next day, his sister called. We had always been close, and her voice was heavy with guilt. "I need to tell you something," she said. I didn't know how. My chest tightened. "Tell me." "They've been emotionally involved for over a year," she admitted. "At least. Before you got pregnant." The words cut deeper than anything Ethan had said. Over a year. That meant when we were trying for a baby. When he held my hand at doctor visits. When he promised we were building a family together. So, everyone knew, I said quietly. Not everyone, she replied. But enough of us suspected. After the call ended, I sat in the dark, my hands resting on my belly. The twins shifted, responding to my tension. I closed my eyes and let the truth settle fully for the first time. He didn't leave because he wasn't attracted to me anymore. He left because he had already chosen someone else. I wasn't abandoned suddenly. I was replaced slowly. That night, Lena messaged me again. I never meant for this to happen. Ethan and I just connected. I hope one day you can forgive me. I stared at the screen, numb. Forgive her? For waiting patiently while my marriage dissolved? For stepping into my life while I was carrying his children? I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new note on my phone and started writing everything down.
Dates.
Conversations. Screenshots. Financial details. Doctor appointments he missed. Promises he broke. If Ethan thought this would be easy, if he thought I would quietly disappear, he was wrong. I placed my hands over my stomach and felt two steady kicks, one after the other. For the first time since he left, I wasn't just grieving. I was preparing. The night after I started writing everything down, I barely slept. My mind kept circling the same thoughts: lawyers, hospital bills, diapers, cribs, two of everything. Fear crept in whenever the apartment fell silent. But beneath that fear, something unfamiliar was forming. Resolve. The next morning, I called a family law attorney. My voice shook as I explained my situation: pregnant with twins, abandoned, husband involved with another woman. I expected pity. Instead, I got calm efficiency. You need to protect yourself and your children, she said. And you need to start now. By noon, I had an appointment scheduled. I dressed carefully, choosing loose maternity clothes that didn't make me feel invisible. Before leaving, I paused in front of the mirror. My face looked tired, yes, but not broken. Not yet. The attorney's office smelled like coffee and paper. As I spoke, she took notes, occasionally asking pointed questions. Had Ethan moved out voluntarily? Was there proof of the relationship? Did I have access to joint accounts? For the first time since he left, I felt something close to control. He is obligated to support you, she said firmly. Especially given your condition. Don't let him convince you otherwise. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store. It was a small thing, but it mattered. I chose food for myself. Healthy things. Comfort things. I was learning, slowly, how to think beyond the shock. That evening, Ethan called. I considered letting it go to voicemail. Instead, I answered. We need to talk about logistics, he said, straight to the point. The babies, the apartment. The babies are not a logistical issue, I replied. My voice surprised even me.
Steady.
They're your children. A pause. I know that. Then start acting like it. He sighed, irritated. I don't want this to turn ugly. I laughed softly, bitterly. You left your pregnant wife for your friend. It's already ugly. Silence stretched between us. I've spoken to a lawyer, I added. That got his attention. You did what? I'm protecting myself, I said. And our twins. He muttered something under his breath. Lena thinks you're being emotional. That was it. The line he crossed without realizing it. I don't care what Lena thinks, I said coldly. She is not part of this conversation. Or this family. I ended the call before he could respond. Later that night, my water bottle slipped from my hand and spilled across the floor. I bent down too fast, a sharp pain shooting through my back. Panic surged instantly. I froze, breathing shallowly, waiting for another wave.
It passed.
I sank onto the couch, heart pounding, both hands on my belly. The twins moved, slow and reassuring. In that moment, it became painfully clear I could not afford to fall apart. Not physically, not emotionally. I emailed my boss the next morning, explaining the situation. I asked about maternity leave, remote options, flexibility. To my surprise, the response was immediate and supportive. Take care of yourself. We'll figure out the rest. Support. Real support. Not empty words. That night, I packed Ethan's remaining things into boxes. Not in anger, in acceptance. Each folded shirt, each misplaced sock felt like closing a chapter. When I taped the final box shut, I sat back and exhaled. I was still scared, still grieving, still furious. But I was standing. And for the first time since Ethan walked out that door, I believed, truly believed, that I might survive this on my own. The first contraction I felt was not dramatic. It didn't knock the air from my lungs or send me rushing to the hospital. It was a dull, tightening pressure low in my abdomen, unfamiliar but unmistakable. I checked the clock.
Too early.
Panic crept in slowly this time, controlled by weeks of forced strength. I breathed through it, timing the sensation the way the doctor had taught me. When it passed, I sat very still, listening to my body. This was happening whether Ethan was ready or not. I called my doctor. After describing the symptoms, she told me to come in immediately just to be safe. Twins often arrived early. I packed my hospital bag with shaking hands, suddenly aware of how alone I truly was. At the hospital, the lights were harsh and unforgiving. Nurses moved quickly, hooking me up to monitors, asking questions, offering calm smiles. 2 heartbeats filled the room again, fast and strong. Your cervix hasn't progressed yet, the doctor said after examining me. But these contractions are real.
You need rest.
Minimal stress. I almost laughed at that. Is the father coming? A nurse asked gently. No, I said. It's just me. She didn't ask again. Ethan found out anyway. His sister called him, and within an hour, my phone rang. I'm on my way, he said, breathless. You don't need to, I replied. I should be there, he insisted. They're my kids. By the time he arrived, I was lying in a quiet hospital room, and 4 in my arm. He looked different, tired, unsettled, stripped of the confidence he'd worn since leaving. Seeing him didn't hurt the way I expected. It just felt distant. He sat in the chair across from my bed, eyes fixed on the monitor. I didn't think it would happen this soon, he said. Neither did I replied. But here we are. Silence stretched between us, heavy and awkward. I didn't mean to cause you this much stress, he said finally. I turned my head toward him. You didn't mean to. You just did. He flinched. When the doctor returned, she explained the risks clearly: bed rest, possible early delivery, the importance of stability. Ethan listened, his jaw tightening with every word. This is serious, the doctor said. She cannot be under emotional strain. After she left, Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I didn't realize how bad it was. No, I said quietly. You didn't. For the first time, I saw something crack in him.
Guilt.
Real guilt. I thought leaving would be cleaner, he admitted. That we'd figure things out later. Later doesn't exist when you're pregnant with twins, I said. Everything is now. He nodded slowly. That night, as contractions eased and exhaustion pulled me under, I knew something had shifted. Not between us. We were long past repair, but inside him, reality had finally caught up. He could run from me. He could choose Lena. He could rewrite our marriage however he wanted. But he could not escape the truth. 2 lives were on the way. And nothing, not attraction, not excuses, not betrayal, could change that. I was discharged 2 days later with strict instructions: bed rest, no stress, and weekly monitoring. The irony of no stress wasn't lost on me. Still, I followed every rule. I had learned the hard way that my body was no longer just mine. Ethan drove me home in silence. It was the first time we'd been alone together since he left, and it felt like sitting next to a stranger. When we reached the apartment, he carried my bag inside, hesitating in the doorway as if unsure whether he belonged there anymore. You can leave the boxes, I said, noticing his eyes drift toward the neatly stacked ones in the corner. He nodded, swallowing hard. I'll check in tomorrow.
He did.
And the day after that. Short calls. Careful questions. Updates about appointments. It was too late to be comforting, but it was something. Then Lena showed up. I heard the knock while I was lying on the couch, legs elevated, a pillow under my back. At first, I thought it was a delivery. When I opened the door and saw her, perfectly put together, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. "I just want to talk," she said softly. "You shouldn't be here," I replied. "I know," she said, "but I needed to see you." I stepped aside, more tired than angry. She stood awkwardly in the living room, eyes drawn to my belly. For a moment, her confidence faltered. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. "Ethan was unhappy long before." "Stop," I interrupted. "This isn't about his happiness." She looked startled. "Isn't it?" "No," I said. "It's about choices. And you both made yours." She shifted uncomfortably. "He feels terrible. He blames himself for your hospitalization." "He should," I said calmly. The bluntness seemed to unnerve her more than anger would have. "I'm not here to fight," she said. I need you to know I didn't plan this." I studied her then. The woman I had been compared to. She was beautiful, composed, untouched by the consequences of loving a married man. "Intent doesn't erase impact," I said. "You get to walk away from this." "I don't." Her eyes flicked to my stomach again. She nodded slowly, as if something was finally sinking in. "I don't think I can do this," she admitted suddenly. "Not like this." I raised an eyebrow. "Do what?" "Be with him," she said. Knowing what it cost. For the first time, I felt no satisfaction. Only relief. Not because she might leave him, but because the illusion was cracking. She left quietly, without asking for forgiveness. That evening, Ethan called. "She came to see you," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "What did she say?" "That she's reconsidering." He exhaled shakily. "I deserve that." "Yes," I agreed. When I hung up, I rested my hands on my belly, feeling too slow, steady movements beneath my palms. The drama, the triangle, the betrayal, it was all fading into the background. What mattered was clear now. I didn't need him to choose me. I had already chosen myself. And that choice was going to change everything. The twins arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, earlier than expected but strong enough to fight their way into the world. Labor was long and exhausting, a blur of pain, breath, and determination. When the first cry filled the delivery room, sharp and demanding, I broke down in tears, not from fear this time, but from relief. 2 tiny lives were placed on my chest, one after the other.
Warm. Real. Meaning.
Ethan arrived hours later. He stood at the doorway, hesitant, as if unsure whether he was allowed to step inside this moment. When he finally approached, his eyes filled as he looked at them. Our son and our daughter, impossibly small, impossibly perfect. "They're beautiful," he whispered. "Yes," I said. "They are." I let him hold them, briefly. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't bitter. I was simply done pretending we were something we were not. Lena didn't come. He told me later she had ended things the week before the birth. Said she couldn't live with herself. Said she realized too late that being chosen the wrong way didn't feel like winning. I felt nothing when I heard that.
No triumph. No vindication.
Just peace. The months that followed were hard. Sleepless nights. Endless feedings. A body healing while learning how to be strong again. But I wasn't alone the way I had feared. My mother stayed with me. Friends showed up. My workplace adjusted around my reality. Support came from places I hadn't expected. Ethan did his part: child support, scheduled visits, polite distance. He tried, occasionally, to cross lines that no longer existed. Conversations about what if and maybe someday. I shut them down gently. Some betrayals don't deserve closure stories. They deserve boundaries. One afternoon, as I rocked both babies to sleep, sunlight spilling across the living room floor, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked different. Not younger. Not prettier. Stronger. I had been abandoned at my most vulnerable and survived it. I had carried twins through heartbreak and fear and brought them safely into the world. I had rebuilt my life not out of revenge, but out of necessity. Ethan lost me the day he decided attraction mattered more than loyalty.